Which brings me to Ronda Rousey, who returned at the Royal Rumble after a 3-year absence. Her promo on Raw sucked. She wondered which champion she would challenge or she should challenge at WrestleMania. At one point, Kevin Dunn's paw slipped and he hit the crowd noise button at the wrong moment because the crowd was silent and suddenly we heard all these fake cheers before they quickly died down again. I know they've been pumping in crowd noise for months since they left the Thunderdome, but this is just pathetic now. She kept referring to Becky Lynch as Rebecca for some reason, as if that's supposed to be some kind of an insult, calling the woman by her full name. She didn't say much of anything until Becky came out. She was more amused than anything at Ronda using her government name. She reminded us that she is the only person with a win over Ronda Rousey, and that nobody has beaten her for the championship since. Ronda grabbed her by the arm, flipped her over onto the mat, and said we would get our answer on Friday, and stormed off. On Smackdown Friday night, they tried to swerve us into thinking that she had chosen Becky Lynch and that Charlotte would be picking Sasha Banks as her opponent for WrestleMania, before Ronda finally came out and made it very clear that she was going to be challenging Charlotte. So Ronda is going to be exclusive to SmackDown going forward, which is their gift to the executives at Fox. They can save Ronda against Becky for Hollywood next year, but hey, a lot can happen in a year. It's a risk. Putting the match off for a year is a risk. Ronda and Charlotte had an excellent match at Survivor Series in 2018. Really physical match. She came across way better, Ronda did on Friday than she did on Monday. The people were behind her on Friday. She actually looked like she wanted to be there. They hate Charlotte enough that I think Ronda might be okay with these as far as the crowd reactions go, but she has had a very adversarial relationship with the fans in the past. It actually goes back to that Survivor Series match. After it was over, Charlotte gave her a beatdown with a kendo stick and a chair. She was beating up the referees, and the live crowd was chanting, "Thank you, Charlotte." And "You deserve it" at Ronda as she was leaving. She was all like, she had welts all over her body and she was bleeding and the crowd is chanting, "You deserve it." Supposedly it wasn't a work, it really got to her, and after that, she didn't much care for the fans. The fans seem to be cheering for her so far. I mean, it's hard to tell through all the fake noise that they keep pumping in. I mean, these people do more pumping in one night than I do all year putting gas in my car. But look, I'm a fan of Ronda Rousey being back in WWE. May not always sound like it, but I am. I am a fan of her being back. When she made those comments a few years ago on Steve-O's podcast that pissed everybody off, she was complaining about how the fans don't appreciate her and the sacrifices that she's made being on the road 200 days a year. Fuck these fans. Calling what they do fake fights for fun. I remember Alexa Bliss and Nia Jax and some of the other women on the roster took offense to her using the F word. Ooh, she used the F word. And then Ronda doubled down and said that she was offended by everybody being offended at her calling it fake when she did real fighting for a living, and putting those two things on the same level and sort of, equating them offended her. She said, "Do you know what would happen if you got into 300 real fights in a year? You would be dead." And Nia Jax said that she would knock Ronda the fuck out if she ever came back to the company and if she was ever booked in a match against her. All these wrestlers freak out at the smallest mention of the word fake, yet they have no problem living on Instagram, posting photos backstage, heels mingling with faces, faces mingling with heels. They're all great friends, exposing the business. But Ronda calls it fake fighting for fun and they get all up in arms. Ronda would murder Nia Jax if they ever got in a real fight. She would snap her fucking arm off and beat her over the head with it. And that goes the same for everybody else on that roster, with the possible exception of Shayna Baszler. She would be doing Nia a favor if she ripped her arms off. That way she wouldn't be able to tweet dumb shit. But when she was around last time, I enjoyed her work. She had one of the best debuts in WWE history at WrestleMania 34. The way they put that match together and she held up her end of it, it was fantastic. It was the best match of the night. She had very good matches in her run last time. She was only there for a year, but she had very good matches with Charlotte, very good match with Sasha Banks. at the Royal Rumble. And when she left, the women's division died. It died off a lot because the company seemed to lose interest in it. But her comments about the fans, I can never really figure out if she was working everybody or if she really did feel some resentment towards them. I think she did. At least a little bit. I think she felt some resentment towards the fans. Maybe she still does. You know, I wanted to see her lean more into it and embrace it. I think heel Ronda is something would come more natural to her. But if she's in there against Charlotte, then she's not going to be the heel. After Ronda left, though, on Monday, to go back to the segment on Raw Monday, after Ronda walked out on Becky, Lita came out to confront Becky Lynch. She challenged Becky to a match at Elimination Chamber for the Raw Women's title. Apparently, I mean, they didn't mention that it was a title match, but according to WWE.com, it is. And so it is now official. They will clash in 2 weeks for the Raw Women's Championship. Hey, if it works for Goldberg, then there's no reason it shouldn't work for Lita. But boy, you know, it just makes me think about the Royal Rumble. We just had 2 Royal Rumble matches. And I know it's specifically for a shot at WrestleMania. It's WrestleMania. It's stupendous. Shut the fuck up. I get that. But we had 2 Royal Rumble matches where these people were fighting for the right to challenge for the championship of their choosing. And then here we are now. Brock Lesnar wins the Royal Rumble. Brock Lesnar now is going to go to the Elimination Chamber and win back the title he lost and end up against Roman Reigns anyway. Lita goes into the Women's Royal Rumble match. She wants to, wrestle for the championship. She wanted Charlotte. She wanted to wrestle Charlotte for the title. She didn't win the Royal Rumble. So she shows up the next night and goes, well, I guess as a consolation prize, I couldn't get the match with Charlotte, so I'll just challenge Becky instead and get a title match anyway. As if the Royal Rumble matches could not possibly feel less important. But hey, if Goldberg can do it, there's no reason Lita can't. Goldberg's in the Hall of Fame, so is Lita. What makes him so special as opposed to her in this situation, right? So Lita is going to get her championship match. It's an attraction that they can put on in Saudi Arabia. They want stars on those shows. They want attractions. But the path for WrestleMania has to be Becky Lynch against Bianca Belair.